This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect. Hi, I'm Jennifer Filla, CEO and founder at the Prospect Research Institute. Welcome to this edition of Chat Bites, Member Tips. Today, our member tip is going to be focused on prospecting, and specifically the difficulties around finding interest and affinity. And at the end of this member tip, I'm going to have a great resource for you that you can download and use in your project. So last week, I was browsing through the Approach to Prospecting course, seeking inspiration because I was working on a tough prospecting project. Interest and affinity are little devilish items, even when you have great data. So if you're prospecting inside your database, you have giving history. If you're a university, you have information about how the person attended your college or university. So, whether they were in clubs, etc. And if you're an organization, you might have other engagement data, like when they attended events, etc. Even then, it can be tricky to pin down interests and affinity to your organization or a project. But what about when you have to walk out into the wide world and find brand new people out in the wild? Then it's even harder. That's where I was. Not only was I out in the wild, but the city that I was prospecting in, all the big, blue chip nonprofits, right, with all the heavy hitters that I needed, the high net worth individuals, they weren't publishing donor recognition lists. So when I was looking for those top gifts to organizations, nope, not there, which was driving me crazy. What do I do next? And I take it back. There's a large, prestigious university in the city, and they absolutely publish donor recognition, but those graduates could then move all around the nation. They could move around the globe. And I needed people inside the city. That was very particular for this project. So what do? Well, I kept going back to my handy prospecting worksheet. That's what I like to use to kind of brainstorm on criteria. What are the keywords? What are the interest words? What are the parameters for the project? But also brainstorming for the sources. What kind of sourcing strategies can I use? And doing this and documenting it was my way of inching closer and closer to finding some affinity and interest indicators. It was a little painful. In this particular case, it was just so challenging. But in other cases, I've found some eureka moments. So I will take my prospecting worksheet and my sourcing strategies, and I then translate that into the qualification. So I put my names in the spreadsheet, and for each name that I've sourced, I'm noting what that strategy was that I used. Now, why is that important? It just sounds, all like nice, neat, and tidy documentation, but really, you're in a hurry here. Prospecting is tedious. But what I found is that when I'm very methodical like this, it keeps me focused and it quickly identifies which strategies really do work and which are not working. If I'm sorting by my strategy, I can find some strategies have just a ton of disqualified prospects in the list. Somebody that I spent time looking for information and disqualified, and that's time I would rather spend qualifying someone who turns out to have the right indicators. So documenting that information has really been the only way in which I've been able to stay focused. Otherwise, especially when there's distractions, it's kind of like a whirlwind. Let me try this. Oh, I'm not finding good prospects there in a half an hour. Let me try this sort and this search. And by the end of the day, you're really not sure what's working. You may or may not have found good prospects. Documenting your source strategies really is going to get you closer to interest and affinity indicators out in the wild. So that resource that I promised you is my prospecting worksheet. If you are a paid or free member of the Institute, you can go right in there and download it and use it for yourself. You'll probably adapt it, of course, but it might help give you some framework, help you put together something that works for you. Or you might like it just the way it is. So if you're a paid member, you can just go right in there and log in. You're going to see the fundraising analytics collection in your dashboard. If you are not a member yet, you could be a free Knowledge Seeker member. And once you have that account, you simply log in, you look for the fundraising analytics collection, and then you look for the data mining for new prospects section. And that's where you're going to find the prospecting worksheet. I hope you enjoyed this member tip. I would love to hear from you if you have tips on prospecting out in the wild. This is just such a challenging thing to do. We're being asked to do it more and more often in our field. So if you have some things that you do that you want to share, go ahead and leave a comment or call me or email me. Or if you're a paid member, you can go ahead and drop that in Slack in our shareables channel. Share it with everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. You took time out of your day. I appreciate that, and I look forward to learning with you again soon.